Hello everyone, my name is Paul Third, and this week I want to talk to you about Crossfeed for when you're mixing on headphones. Now, I have briefly mentioned Crossfeed in the past when I've done some of my mixing on headphones videos. If anybody wants more context, I'll leave a link in the description. There's a playlist with all of my mixing on headphone videos so you can get more context. Now, normally when I talk about Crossfeed, it's normally as basic as buy Goodhertz Canopener and use the Mixing Engineers preset. Job done, happy days, live your best life, and you'll get good translation. Now, I was doing that for many years, and it's worked and been successful for many people. But recently, what I've realised is that Crossfeed isn't really beneficial for every headphone. And that is something that I'm going to go into in detail today and try and explain why that is, right? So, in regards to Crossfeed, I'm not going to go into all of the sciencey things about it, right? You can fucking research it in ChatGPT and do whatever you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of talk to you about the intention of Crossfeed, because I think many people get the intention of Crossfeed wrong and what it's actually intended to do. Now, when we get a Crossfeed plugin like Goodhertz Canopener, or even the Crossfeed in real phones, I didn't know that you could isolate it, but you can. If you go to the advanced section and you turn everything off and have the angle on, the angle basically acts as your Crossfeed, and that's its own algorithm, right? And there's other plugins that can do Crossfeed. Now, the intention of these plugins are to do basically two very simple things. One, it is intended to narrow the image. Many people get this wrong. Many people think that Crossfeed widens the image. No. It does the opposite, right? It does the opposite. Now, the reason that it has to narrow the image is because of the way that headphones work. So if you think about headphones, right, we've got left driver, left ear, right ear. There's a separation there, and that separation can sometimes cause there to be too much of a feeling that there's too much side channel, right? And normally what I find in a lot of headphones, especially a lot of cheap dynamic ones, is that the sound stage doesn't sound like it's kind of here, like when you listen to on speakers. It sounds like it's here. And it's sometimes almost behind your ear and a little bit even further back. And it's very unnatural. And what I find is that when it's that wide, you end up losing your phantom center, and the phantom center gets lost a little bit. The kick in the bass just sometimes feel like it's a little bit tucked, and it's just a really, really, really bad LCR mix. You're just wow, this sounds nothing like speakers. And that's been one of the reasons why many people have struggled to mix on headphones and get good translation to speakers, right? Now, so that's the first issue. Now, the second issue is normally what you'll find in a lot of headphones is that the vocal can sometimes sound like it's here or sometimes here, on the top of your head, or normally I find it's right here. I always find that sometimes vocals can almost sound like it's in my head. And it doesn't sound natural, because when we listen to speakers, it's the vocals coming at you, but there's still a distance involved. I always feel like you don't have the distance in headphones, and it's the vocals almost in your head. And again, it's very unnatural. So there's two problems normally when mixing on headphones. And actually, I'd say maybe three. You've got the width, the phantom center, and sometimes, the mid-range can sometimes kind of build up in a way that it just sounds kind of unnatural and kind of in your head a little bit. And this is what Crossfeed attempts to fix. And I'm going to go into the methods that I think they are using, and I'm going to show you how to recreate those methods for free using free EQs, but they need to have a certain feature. You can find EQs that have this certain feature. Right, so let's kind of split this up into sections, right? Number one, how do Crossfeed plugins narrow the image? I was never sure how they did this. I just thought what they did was they just blended a bit of the right channel into the left and a bit of the left into the right, and that was it. Right, simple Crossfeed, that's all I thought it was. Because that basically is what you would call the basic bitch Crossfeed, which is just narrowing the image, right? Now, what's interesting is that when I stuck Goodhertz Canopener into plugindoctor, I wasn't actually sure what was going on, because as you'll see, it's got this big dip in the mid-range, around 1K. And I just couldn't make heads or tails what was going on. So I left it for a couple of days. ChatGPT did a bit of research. And then I came back to plugindoctor, and then just so happened I looked at the top right and I went, I forgot there was a mid-side mode. Pressed the mid-side mode, and then hallelujah, the heavens opened, and then all of a sudden Crossfeed made sense, and I was able to kind of understand what they're doing. Now, what you'll notice is that when you put the Canopener Mix Engineer preset through mid-side mode in plugindoctor, you notice that essentially what it's doing is that it's rolling off a lot of the side information. So it's essentially monoing the low end up to say like maybe 200, 300 hertz. And then interestingly, it's dipping the mid-range in the mid-channel and it's boosting the side channel around the same frequency, which is around say 1.1K. And you'll also notice that the mid-channel has more high end and the side channel has less high end. Now, when you see that, surely, right, ding, the light bulb should be pinging for you and everything should kind of make sense. Because it makes sense to me now, because it makes sense as to why they would do this. So if we think about how this kind of mid-side EQ kind of solves the issues to a certain extent, right? So we were talking about the phantom center and how we were saying that, you know, the width was an issue and how like we were kind of losing the bass and the kick and it didn't really sound like it had much of a phantom center. Now, if you mono the low end, then what happens? Comes out the side channel and it's more focused in the center channel. It's a trick that many people have been using on their mixes and masters for years. It's a very easy trick if you want to add a little bit more center focus to the kick and get it out the way of the side channel. And what's really interesting is that when you know it's doing that, you hear it. So when I switch it on and off, I can actually hear the low end, the kick and the bass, becoming more monoed and becoming more tighter. And it genuinely does give you that image in the middle and that kind of tightness and punch of the low end that you get from your speakers that you sometimes lack with headphones that have got too much separation. Now, many people may be wondering why they've decided to dip the mid-channel and around, say, 1 to 1.1K and boost the side channel at around 1 to 1.1K. It's basically like almost like a mirror correct kind of move, right? Now, the reason that they've done this is to create distance. And it's amazing how you can manipulate that to give your kind of mid-range, and especially vocals, that's normally what's kind of sitting in that kind of mid-range area, is vocals. It allows you to create that separation and it allows you to kind of detach the vocal, in my opinion, from, you know, the headphones. And what I've noticed is that when you change the angle in real phones or in Goodhertz Canopener, that frequency changes. So there must be something about, you know, the angle that you've got your speaker in that relates to headphones sounding like fucking speakers. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into it because the Dunning-Kruger effect comes in and I don't know enough. But what I can tell you is what I hear, and what I hear is that creates a bit of depth and just kind of makes it sound a little bit more like something's in front of you. And then we've got the difference in the high end. Now, obviously when we think about, you know, width, a lot of the times if something's wide and it's got a lot of high frequencies, it does take our attention, and you normally find that that is the thing that sounds, you notice more, because obviously our ears are more sensitive to upper mid-range and high frequencies. So if you've got more of that on your side channel, you're going to hear it more. So by manipulating the side and removing more sides from the signal, what you're doing is you're narrowing the image. And what you'll normally find that it takes headphones from sounding here to more here, which brings it more in front of you, which is like what speakers is. And by the way, for anybody asking, Paul, why did you use the ozone EQ? You could have got closer with Kirchhoff and FabFilter. I don't have FabFilter and Kirchhoff installed on the MacBook yet. I've just been lazy. I do plan on doing it. Now, I don't know if I will go and install it on the MacBook and get it even closer, but I don't really think I need to, right? I got as close as I could with kind of the limited functionality of the ozone EQ, but it's close enough, right? And as you can see in the phase, I got it very, very close in the phase. And normally if you get it very close in the phase, if you try and do a null, it'll basically nearly cancel out. And it basically does. Now, it's frustrating for me because I know I can get closer and I can get a deeper null, but I think this still does the job, right? So as you can see, this is a mix that me and Ed done ages ago. Got Canopener on it. I've then duplicated the track and then I've added the ozone preset that I saved, added that onto that, and then I flipped the polarity of one of the tracks to do a null test and then to show us the difference that's left. And as you can see, in the default mode of span, there is no signal showing. We have to go down to around, minus 100, and then we can see that there is a difference there. Now you can see a difference on the meters, so there is still a difference there because I didn't get everything absolutely perfect, which is needed for a full null. But what it does prove to you that the difference is inaudible. And know what? I'll actually just show you actually how loud the difference actually is.
Dirt still on my fingertips, deeper and deeper. I could learn to live with this. I'm still a dreamer.
So as you can see and hear, there isn't really any audible difference between the two, which leads me to the conclusion that Canopener is really just kind of mid-side EQ, which I can't believe. Like, I take it that's what they're all doing, and that's what they found is the easiest way to manipulate the image in the way to get headphones to sound, more akin, to speakers in regards to their image. And the great thing about this, obviously, is that you can do this with any linear EQ that has mid-side. Get plugindoctor, stick it in a mid-side mode, get a demo of Canopener, and just go around and save presets. But at the end of the day, like, nearly all of us use the Mixing Engineer preset. Normally, because the Mixing Engineer preset has that dip in the mid-range and the boost in the sides, which normally, for me, does the whole package. It narrows the image, makes it more realistic, and the vocals don't sound like it's fucking right in my head. So that's been the solution for many, many people, and it's worked wonders on many, 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 many headphones. However, I said earlier that I stopped using it for certain headphones. Now, the headphones that I'm not using Crossfeed with is my 3 egg-shaped cupped Headphones. The Headphone HE1000 SE, the Headphone Aria Organic that came last week. There will be a review on those when I've done a few mixes on them. And one of probably the most famous headphones on YouTube right now, the Headphone Ananda Nanos. Now, one thing that I've always found difficult about the Ananda Nanos is the sound stage. And I've always said that I just always feel like I'm pushing the side image up all the time, and that never translated to speakers, because when I get it sounding right on the Nanos and I put it on speakers, the side image was always too much. Now, this makes sense knowing what Goodhertz Canopener is doing, and also with the knowledge of how centre focused the Headphone Ananda Nanos are. They do not need crossfeed. Like, they're already so centre focused that when you mono the low end, it just, okay, it does sound quite nice, to be fair, right? But it doesn't sound as akin to speakers. It just sounds overly tight and overly focused, and the centre image just takes like too much priority. It's almost like switching on a mono button. Like, like when you're sitting listening to a mix and you press the mono button. That's what it's like on them. I'm pointing to them because they're right there. And it really, really impacted my mixing decisions. And then all of a sudden I was like, right, I'm just going to try it without Canopener. I was like, whoa, there's all my side information. And that was genuinely all because I was so used to Canopener, using it over the years with the Headphone Sindara openbacks, which I do think benefit from them. I do think that the Sindara openbacks, I do think they benefit, especially the closebacks. I don't really like them for mixing, but they definitely need crossfeed. Now, what's interesting about Canopener is that I was always using that for the low end, so it's actually quite a decent little trick. Like, if you really, really want to focus on the low end, crossfeed with the Nanos is just going to allow you to hear absolutely everything in the low end, because it's just so unbelievably tight. But it's not really that realistic to speakers. It's just really, really nice. It's just like, yes, the low end is like the tightest I've ever heard on anything, even more than PMCs. But in regards to mixing and getting like average results, not just like your center image, also your soundstage, these just do not need crossfeed. Crossfeed actually hinders them, and actually, in my opinion, detracts, from the translation. And it's the exact same with the HE1000 SE and the Headphone Aria Organic. Look, the HE1000 SEs are the best sounding headphones I've ever heard. And many people will be like, yeah, but you said like the Nanda Nanos were like the best for mixing. Yes, I would say that for mixing, like your center image, your vocals and levels and transients and bass, like kick, and the most important kind of meat and two veg of a mix is really, really important. It's a mixing tool. But the HE1000 SEs, they just are a pleasure to listen to. I just think the soundstage sounds incredibly close to speakers. I just think like when I take them on and off with the speakers I've got in here, I'm just like, yes, it's got the resolving nature, the width is right, it's just everything just sounds right. And what I was doing with the crossfeed was, okay, I was kind of bringing a little bit more of the low end that I do think I still like a little bit, but I was narrowing the image and I was losing the resolution, and it was just taking a very good stereo spread and just kind of monoing it, and it's just unnecessary. Like, and the interesting thing is I could still mix with it. Like, I could still make decisions. It's just that it's unnecessary. The image is already, in my opinion, perfect. And that's something that I think is doing a little bit of a disservice to the manufacturers like Headphone that have went out of their way to make headphones that shouldn't need crossfeed. You know, the image is realistic enough where you don't have that feeling of it being right here and like right here. It sims like out in front of you. Like when people stick on the HE1000 SEs, I'm still to have it. I'm still to have somebody that doesn't sit there and go, wow, these are special, man. Like, I've never heard so much resolution and detail. It's like the Headphone HE1000 SEs almost sound like the perfect pair of speakers, in my opinion. They're great for sim staging. The Headphone Audio Organics are like the baby brother of that. They've not got the kind of the full resolution. They're not as resolving. They're not as wide, but they're very good and they sound very natural. Okay, that's as far as I'll go just now. So crossfeed actually is a negative with them because it's making the low end too tight. It's making the phantom center a bit too focused. It's narrowing the image in an unnecessary way because the image is already perfect. It'd be like adding crossfeed to Dan Clark Stealth. For anybody that's not heard Dan Clark Stealth, they are the closest thing to a fucking pair of monitors I've ever heard. The HEs have this way where it sounds like the perfect pair of speakers to me. Dan Clark Stealth just sound like a pair of speakers. They just, not like the perfect pair of speakers, they just sound like a pair of speakers. It's incredible. That's why they're so fucking expensive. It's incredible. If you use crossfeed with that, it's just pointless. You're just wasting a really, really, really good design. By the way, for anybody thinking they're going to comment down below, and I'm going to tell you, if your headphones need crossfeed, no, right? You need to do one thing. You need to get your headphones and you need to take them in a studio that's acoustically treated and listen to your headphones, take them off, try and level match as good as possible, try and get the same audio playing out the speakers and headphones, and just, take them on and off and listen to the image. And after maybe 5-10 minutes and after a few songs, you'll start to hear what's wrong or what's different from the headphones to the speakers. Like when I have the egg-shaped Headphones, like if I have the HE1000 SE, I can take them off and the image still sounds the same. It still sounds in front of me. It's like a fucking holograph. And it's not just the Headphone egg-shaped cups. I would say that the Sony MDR MV1s, they do not need crossfeed because the image is just incredible. The image sounds like it's here. It's phenomenal. Like, that does not need fucking narrowed. It really doesn't. So I would say you have to use your ears, which I know a lot of you don't like. You just want to be told exactly what to do. But for most people, I do think you'll find that crossfeed will benefit your headphones. For example, I'm looking at them right now. The Odyssey MX4s 100% need crossfeed. Actually, I would say all Odysseys, from my experience, need crossfeed. For me, the MX4s have this thing where it sounds like it's creeping in just here. It doesn't sound here. It sounds like it's creeping in just here. And then the phantom centers for me can be improved a little as well, especially the low end. Stick fucking crossfeed on it and all of a sudden, bang. The image is like speakers, in my opinion. It's very, very, very impressive. And that's also why, the Olo S5X, are designed the way they're designed, because they're designed to specifically work with room simulations which have crossfeed in them. If you listen to the Olo S5X, you'll notice that the image is the widest I've ever heard. Like unnaturally wide, where genuinely everything sims here. It's like the worst LCR mix you've ever heard. It's like, there's the center and there's the width. But when you put crossfeed on it, all of a sudden, everything clicks into place and you're like, oh wow, this is very, very similar, kind of getting there to speakers. And then obviously you put the room simulations on it and voila, it's like fucking real phones comes alive. So it is very kind of user case and you have to use your ears. It's very simple. Is the image sound like it's coming from here in front of you, or does it sound like it's coming from here and in here? Is it really enclosed, right? All closed backs, I think, need crossfeed. Even the edifiers, the trying to think what they the S5s that they sent me, their wireless planars. They sound a lot better with Crossfeed. Especially because I remember I was listening to stuff at work today, and the vocals, I mean, the imaging's pretty good. It's like kind of there. It's a little bit tucked, but it stems a little bit there. But the vocal was right here. It was like right in my head. And I tried it with Crossfeed when I was in the studio and plugged it in. And it was like, wow, there we go. There's the distance of that vocal. Everything just sounds like it's coming from kind of here now. And it was improved. So you've got to use your ears. But in most cases, I'd say most headphones, especially kind of round-shaped headphones, closed-back headphones, most of them you're going to need Crossfeed with them. But I just thought I would share kind of what I can see that the Crossfeed plugins are doing. It is just kind of mid-side trickery and understanding why they're doing these kind of mid-side moves. Try it out for yourself, and if you can, get a pair of speakers in your room. That's what I said a couple of weeks ago in the video I made. I was like, I always suggest having a pair of speakers in the room so you can reference, and in that way, you can tailor your headphones to your speakers. Again, you can manipulate the Crossfeed algorithm. If you feel like it's dipping too much, again, that's a good thing about having your own EQ. You can manipulate that mid dip and that side boost, and you can get the vocal to sit where you think it sits in your room, and then you have a consistent playback system. Manipulate it, right? Don't go too daft, because you'll end up completely making an arse of it. But if you look at it in plugindoctor, it is very simple. And there we have it. My name is Paul Third. Hopefully you found this video interesting or insightful, and you've learned something today. If you feel like you've taken something from the video, consider leaving a super thanks. Again, there's Patreon and blah, 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 all those good things. Fuck it. My name is Paul Third. I hate doing all that shit. Like and subscribe. Do whatever you want. And I'll see you whenever I see you. Wow, what a shit way to end in the video. Bye-bye.